again, and welcome back as we conclude our live stream coverage from RSA Conference 2024. I'm Jameson Cush with TechTarget Editorial and Ion Tech. And if you missed it earlier today, we spoke with Jessica Gulick about cybersecurity as an esport. It was interesting stuff. Please check it out once you're done watching us here, of course. To my right, Sabrina Paulin. Welcome, yes. Welcome. Sabrina, you were super engaged in the conversation with Jessica.
Absolutely.
And I think you have a lot of interest in becoming an esport athlete.
Oh, I'm not sure about an athlete. I don't know that I have the chops.
An esport cybersecurity athlete.
I'm not sure I have the chops to be a cybersecurity esport athlete, but Jessica was fantastic. Her mission of bringing cybersecurity as an esport to the mainstream, it's really just so cool, and I'm super excited to see where that goes.
Excellent, it was a great conversation. Again, check it out when you're done watching us here. To Sabrina's right, Arielle, Waldman, Alex Culafi, excuse me. Thanks. TechTarget, I said the TechTarget security dogged reporters.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we'll say intrepid now, reporters. Excuse me. Day 2, in the books. Mm-hmm. You were on the show floor, meeting important people, seeing interesting things. The floor is yours, please. Give us the notebook dump.
Sure, so I'll start. As I mentioned this morning, one of the things I like to do each year is go to the show floor of RSA, see what the messaging is like, see what the companies are selling, and it was pretty close to my expectations, a lot of AI. And by how much AI, I mean I spent 20, 25, 30 minutes walking around the entire Moscone north and south just to see what's going on. I would say if you're looking at the small booths, about 40 to 50% had AI or intelligence in their marketing language. If you go to the upper middle-sized companies, so not quite Microsoft, Google, but still pretty big booths, you're seeing less mention of AI because maybe they're in their space already. And then when you go up to the Microsofts and Googles, you start seeing a lot of AI again. And that I don't really have a huge observation about, other than to say smaller companies are going to be hungry, the marketing is going to be fiercer at the smaller companies who are looking to sort of cut out their niche. But the top level observation here is that I expected a lot of AI, and it was even more AI than I even expected.
That makes sense. I didn't get to go down to the floor too much today because I was had a bunch of interviews and things, but I went down yesterday for a little bit. One thing, I was talking to someone today, and they said one thing they kind of were disappointed was missing from the floor this year was the innovation section, where they kind of have more startups and the smaller companies and see what they're coming out with. So he was kind of disappointed with that a little bit, with wanting to see more of the innovation part. But yeah, AI was definitely something I talked about a lot today, so I'm not surprised it was in the booths.
And one of the conversations I had today was with the Chief Product Officer of MDR vendor Arctic Wolf, Dan Schiappa. And Arctic Wolf does have a heavy AI presence in their products, but also their marketing language. So one thing I asked him is that as a product-facing executive, how does it feel when you see the ocean of AI messaging, which, as we were talking about this morning, includes a lot of AI verbiage that doesn't really cover AI? Yeah. And he was telling me pretty frankly, yeah, it is very challenging, and you do have to focus on the use case and what AI means, and how this AI can help the customer in a more concrete, factual, specific way. Yeah. Because by this point, after a wave of machine learning before this, and now generative AI, and just AI as a concept being around forever, AI as a word has become as a term has become basically meaningless. So I don't envy any chief product officers, chief marketing officers that are in that space trying to get the word out in an ocean of, as I said, AI.
I did speak with someone earlier that was saying before it was more the AI washing, but now they're kind of seeing it's actually being integrated and helping companies, so that's a positive as well.
I would imagine that's true to some extent at least. Yeah.
Is there any way to weed out, just by the level of snooping and reporting you guys did today? Is there a way to weed out what's AI washing, what's maybe the real thing, what's a little bit more promising? What kind of words do you look for?
Oh.
It's like a case-by-case basis. I feel like when I talk to a company, you'll know pretty quick. Here's actually what I use to determine how I should be listening to their AI pitch.
Okay.
Is the first thing they tell me AI, or is it a feature that utilizes AI?
Yeah.
Like if they say,
Good
oh, we've
point.
been using AI forever, it's like, oh, he's giving me the marketing pitch.
Yeah.
I'm like a little blah, blah, blah with it. Or I have to ask more specific questions because it's not going more than surface deep, and I'm like asking myself, is this person doing the AI washing, right? But if the company is getting really specific with their use case, and I think Google's new, what's it called, Google Threat Intelligence offering is like a pretty good example of it, of Google has all these sensors, Google has Mandiant, one of the leading threat response, threat intelligence companies in the world,
Yeah.
on their back. Something like AI, which in security is very useful for providing context, but isn't useful for a ton of other things, but it can provide context from a lot of different signals.
Yeah.
I think that's a really useful or interesting use case for it. But if it's just like a chat bot,
Yeah.
it's a little less interesting.
Yeah,
Right?
it does sound like the AI tools are helping SOC analysts, security operations center analysts,
Yeah.
and things like that. And when I wrote about Copilot AI for Microsoft, when they released that, they said that was beneficial as well. So there are some products that seem to be helping
Yeah.
enterprises.
For sure.
So I know working at TechTarget, the gold, the absolute, what the news writers love is talking to users.
Yeah.
Have you had any opportunities to talk to any users here at the show?
Today, I haven't got to talk to any users, unfortunately, but I do always want. I was asking during my interviews with vendors, I asked them to connect me with users. We've been trying to do more like success stories and see how they used security products to combat an attack or something like that. So I've been trying to get more stories like that. So.
Alex, let's you mentioned it a second ago about AI security as well. I think you wrote a story about the IBM survey that found that, have to consult my notes here, 82% of C-suite execs say that you need trustworthy and secure AI, but only 24% have a security component included in their Gen AI products. So 82%, 80%, 20% actually implementing. What's that disconnect? Where's that come from?
The obvious saddest disconnect is that if you're a big company or you're a small company and you see that AI has a really big financial potential, and you want to integrate it really fast, sometimes the business interests will win out over the secure by design interests.
Yes.
However, I think that is going to change, or I think it's going to have to change in the next few years as boardrooms sort of understand that maybe implementing secure by design principles isn't the most interesting to shareholders, but if we invest this money now in making sure that configuration issues are less possible, or if identity attacks against our company are less possible, then that's going to avoid TechTarget security headlines tomorrow.
Right.
But I don't think we're there yet, hence the disconnect.
Yeah.
So that sort of conflict between the business interest and the security interest,
I
that's
think
something...
That's the story of AI. Sorry.
Okay. Is that a story at RSA too? I mean, is this something you see, I mean, even beyond RSA, is that
Yes.
something you run into frequently?
Even not with
reporting?
AI, I feel like a lot of tools, security can be an afterthought. They just want to get, it running on their system or something, or get it up, and then, security seems to be more of an afterthought with design, and software, and
Yeah, and so I don't have any concrete information to say this company is treating it as an afterthought at the security level or not. I think it's too soon to say, but what I will say is, if I go down to the show floor and there's 200, 300, 400 booths there, I don't know if there's that many, but there's a lot of them, and I'm seeing AI as a pitch on 40% of them, do we think that every single one of those companies is applying AI in a secure by design, pragmatic, safe, secure way? Statistically unlikely.
Yeah.
So it's like, to answer your question, I don't know if that's a theme, but it's something I'm thinking about as I look at how much AI we're seeing at the show this year.
Excellent. Or off-the-record chats with
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
TDs you're talking to. So you referred to earlier the Google threat intelligence, and I know you wrote about it earlier. We talked about it a little bit in our earlier conversation, but it seems like it's big news.
I think it's big news. I think it's so threat intelligence as an offering, like a product that can show a company like, here's what's going on, here's what you should be thinking about, here's the intelligence we have for security risks that are relevant to your environment. That's a sector that's been around for a while, but I think what makes the Google announcement interesting is the scale Google operates at what must be $1 trillion or close to $1 trillion company, right? Very few companies, probably Microsoft and maybe no one else, can match the scale of sensors that Google has access to or could access if they wanted to invest to get insight into where threat activity is. And as I mentioned, they acquired Mandiant a few years ago, folded that into Google Cloud, and that is, they're one of the most respected threat response companies in the world. Like when a breach happens,
Yeah.
the victim often says, we consulted Mandiant
Yes,
as part of,
definitely.
or it's CrowdStrike, but it's often Mandiant.
Especially with government. attacks.
So I think even though the product itself, and it also utilizes Gemini, Google's AI model, whatever, and that's interesting too. It was talking about how Gemini Pro 1.5 could decompile and find the kill switch on WannaCry in like 34 seconds or something. So I think what's interesting and prominent about this news isn't that Google has a new product offering, but the fact that it's Google coming out with this offering and the potential for what Google's scale can mean.
Absolutely. Arielle, let's talk about some of your coverage. You had a story yesterday about Splunk detailing squirrels screw-ups.
Yeah.
That's a tongue twister. And these screw-ups, they hamper threat hunting, right? So what's going on with this?
But
Yeah.
I think screw-ups was in quotation marks in your headline, right?
Yeah, yes. I mean, technically, it's lessons that David Bianco learned while working on all these different threat hunting frameworks.
Right, that's A+ headline writing
He
there.
kind of said, he made the headline to lure users in.
When Rob did the headline, did he spell it S-Q-R-E-W?
No.
Oh, missed opportunity.
Or
Wow.
maybe not good for SEO.
Or David could have done that. Yeah. No,
I hope our copy
definitely.
desk isn't watching right now.
Yeah, so screw-ups was kind of a lure, that word, but it was all lessons that he learned. Bianco's worked on multiple threat hunting frameworks over the years, since like 2015, maybe earlier. So he's kind of documented all the issues he found, and a main one was that he said they talked about a lot about what you should do, but not about what enterprises, how they can do it.
Okay.
And that they should encompass, the squirrel threat hunting model only encompass the hypothesis-based model, but there's model-assisted and baseline threat hunting as well. So we said a good model should incorporate all of those hunting methods instead. Yeah, and organizations they're really challenged with threat hunting. It's a big challenge for them, so it's important to address that.
Yeah.
So I know, Alex, you had said you have an important meeting at 5 o'clock our time. So as we wrap up, what can we expect for your coverage? I know, Arielle, you said you were going to do some writing tonight. I mean, that's the life of covering a show like this.
That's true.
I'm sure, Alex, you're doing the same.
Yeah.
Any previews of upcoming stories?
Oh, sure.
Sure, so I got the I'm doing a Microsoft press event tonight from 5 to 6 Pacific. And they're going to talk about some of their new AI offerings, but they're also going to talk about their Secure Future initiative, which they announced in the fall as sort of their commitment to security. But since there was that government sort of report that wrote up like Microsoft's various security failings, and then we've written about it on
After all the
TechTarget a lot,
breaches.
and vendors have come out pretty directly in critique of Microsoft for the breaches that it suffered in the last few years, and not and them seeming avoidable, I think, is sort of the big issue. Like, organizations will get hit by cyber attacks, but I think the way Microsoft got hit was worthy of criticism. So Microsoft announced a few days ago that they were expanding their Secure Future initiative, by pretty outright stating, like, hey, we're going to meet the recommendations in the government report. Here's this very specific plan we have for how we're going to do that. And we're going to prioritize security over product development and focus on secure by design. So I'm very interested and excited to talk with some executives tonight and be like, hey, what led to the way you're talking about this? Why now instead of earlier? Just some other questions. But I think Microsoft is in a super interesting place right now for those reasons.
Definitely. I know I've talked to a lot of, during my interviews, Microsoft comes up a lot, and they keep saying how people are bashing Microsoft a lot, but not everyone thinks they deserve, it seems like they deserve all the bashing, but definitely some of it. Yeah. And then...
Yeah, anything new on your plate that you'll be chipping away at tonight?
Oh, yeah. Well, tonight I'm covering a session that some White House representatives did earlier, where they talked about how attacks against critical infrastructure are ongoing and they're not going away. So that's definitely not great. And then earlier I published a story about ransomware, which I did think was going to come up a lot during RSA, and finally today I did talk a lot about ransomware.
We did get some ransomware.
We got a lot of ransomware today.
What's going on in the ransomware
Well, the
world?
worst part today was how ransomware actors are adapting to endpoint detection and response tools, and they're kind of evading those tools by using commercial tools instead of custom malware, which is harder for EDR tools to detect.
Okay.
So that's not great. So it's harder for enterprises to detect ransomware activity, which, so it's going to present a lot more challenges going forward.
Okay, so we got some good news earlier in the day, and got to balance the scales.
That's
with a little bit of bad news. But
And you will be here tomorrow at 8:30 Pacific time to discuss it all with us.
Yes.
So before we conclude, is there anything left in the notebook? Anything left to dump out?
Well, I think I think a big theme today seemed like the collaboration between public and private sector and increasing transparency there. That's kind of a big theme last year too, but I guess it's continuing on, so that's still an issue there. A lot of talk about nation-state attacks, critical infrastructure, Gen AI, obviously. It was really emphasized that Gen AI is helping defenders more than attackers. But Alex Stamos from SentinelOne said the bad guys will get there eventually. So,
yeah.
The only other interesting thing, or there's other interesting things, but the one that's coming top of mind right now is that this morning, a coalition of governments led by the UK unveiled the identity of the mastermind behind the Lockbit ransomware as a service gang, who goes by the alias Lockbit Sup. And it's part of a really interesting story with Lockbit going on right now, where the government approach to Lockbit was not just, decryption keys or announcing charges against people we already knew about, although that stuff still was, I think, part of the news, but a very deliberate name and shame against Lockbit, against its admins, particularly this person.
I actually know who it is now.
On a rebranded leak site to the .onion link on Lockbit's, that Lockbit was using. And I think it represents a potential exciting new frontier for ransomware disruption, where governments are sort of fed up with the whack-a-mole and are starting other approaches such as reputational damage against ransomware organizations. And we'll probably talk about that more tomorrow morning, because I'm talking to other people.
I am as well.
But I think that's a super interesting development in the space of ransomware.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll be talking to Alan Liska tomorrow from Recorded Future. Hopefully he's covered that a lot, so we should have some more info on that.
I'm excited to see what you guys have to say in the morning. Like waking up on Christmas morning. Some presents to unwrap.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we can find all of your reporting at TechTarget.com /security. TechTarget Security. So Alex, Arielle, again, thank you. Sabrina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jameson.
And thank you very much for joining us as we conclude day 2 at RSA Conference 2024. I'm Jameson Cush from TechTarget Editorial. Please like and subscribe, Eye on Tech, and we will be back tomorrow morning, 8:30 Pacific time, chatting with our friends, our colleagues from TechTarget Security.
Thank you.